Ever stared into your pantry and wondered how that can of beans can sit there perfectly preserved for years? Or maybe you've marveled at how your favorite ice cream stays so creamy and doesn't turn into a block of ice, even after a long trip from the grocery store. These aren't just happy accidents or kitchen miracles, folks. This is the handiwork of two fields that are as essential to your dinner plate as a good sharp knife is to a chef. I'm talking about food science and food technology. They are the unsung heroes, the secret agents working behind the scenes of every single bite you take, from the crunch of a potato chip to the fizz in your soda. All right, let's tackle the first player in our duo, food science. At its core, food science is the study of the fundamental nature of food. It's the why. It's the discipline that asks the big questions about the physical, biological, and chemical makeup of the stuff we eat. Think of food scientists as detectives. They're examining the evidence at a molecular level. Why does an apple turn brown when you cut it? Why does yeast make bread rise? Why does adding salt to a pot of boiling water make it boil at a slightly higher temperature? This field is a veritable smorgasbord of other sciences. It borrows heavily from chemistry to understand reactions like the Maillard reaction, that magical browning process that gives us everything from toasted bread to seared steak. It uses biology and microbiology to study the good guys, like the bacteria in yogurt and cheese, and the bad guys, like the pathogens that can make us sick. If food science is the why, then food technology is the how. This is where the rubber meets the road, or more accurately, where the food meets the factory. Food technology takes all that beautiful, fundamental knowledge discovered by food scientists and applies it on a practical, large scale. It's the engineering side of the equation. It's about developing the processes, the machinery, and the techniques to produce, preserve, package, and distribute food so it's safe, consistent, and available to millions of people. How do we take the scientific principle of pasteurization and create a machine that can process thousands of gallons of milk per hour, ensuring every drop is heated to the precise temperature for the exact amount of time? In reality, they are two sides of the same coin, locked in a symbiotic relationship. They need each other to function. You simply cannot have effective food technology without the foundational discoveries of food science. And the discoveries of food science would be little more than academic curiosities without food technology to bring them to the public. Imagine a company wants to create a new low-fat potato chip that still has a satisfying crunch. The journey begins in the food science lab. A food scientist would start by studying the role of fat in the texture and flavor of a conventional chip. They'd experiment with different types of starches, proteins, or fibers. Once the food scientist has a prototype recipe, they hand the baton to the food technologist. The technologist's job is to figure out how to produce millions of these new chips. To really nail down the difference, let's put these two heavyweights in the ring and compare them round by round. We'll look at their primary focus, their core questions, their typical environment, and their ultimate goals. Food science. The focus is on the fundamental principles of food. It's about understanding the composition of food and the chemical, physical, and biological changes it undergoes. The core question is, why? Food technology. The focus is on the application of those principles. It's about the production, processing, preservation, packaging, and distribution of food. The core question is, how? Food science. You'll typically find a food scientist in a research and development laboratory. Their tools are microscopes, test tubes, chromatographs, spectrometers, and petri dishes. Food technology. The food technologist's domain is the pilot plant or the full-scale manufacturing facility. Their tools are large-scale mixers, industrial ovens, heat exchangers, packaging machines, and quality control sensors. Let's talk about one of the oldest and most beloved processed foods known to humankind, bread. The humble loaf is a perfect case study for the partnership between food science and food technology. Food scientists study the why of it all. They analyze the proteins in flour, glutenin and gliadin, and figure out why, when mixed with water, they form that magical, elastic network we call gluten. They study the single-celled fungus, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, otherwise known as yeast. They research the exact conditions that yeast needs to perform its metabolic magic. Now enters the food technologist, tasked with taking that blueprint and building a bread factory. How do you mix thousands of pounds of dough to the perfect consistency every hour? They design tunnel ovens that are hundreds of feet long, with different temperature zones to ensure the bread is perfectly baked all the way through. Finally, the food technologist has to get that bread to you. They figure out how to slice the loaves uniformly and cool them properly before packaging. If bread is a classic example, then ice cream is surely the most delicious one. That scoop of creamy frozen delight is a marvel of food engineering. The food science of ice cream is all about creating a specific structure, an emulsion of fat globules, a foam of air cells, and a suspension of ice crystals and sugar. The food technologist steps in to make this dream a reality for millions. They use massive vats to mix the base ingredients and giant homogenizers that force the mix through tiny openings at high pressure. Why does any of this matter to you, the person standing in the grocery aisle? Understanding the basics of what goes into your food empowers you to be a smarter consumer, a better cook, and a more informed citizen. When you know why searing meat creates flavor, Maillard reaction, a food science principle, you're more likely to make sure your pan is screaming hot. You start to see your kitchen not just as a place to follow recipes, but as a lab where you can apply these principles yourself. First, it helps you decode the ingredient list. When you see terms like modified cornstarch, soy lecithin, or guar gum, you don't have to be intimidated. Knowledge transforms you from a passive consumer into an active, engaged participant in your own nourishment. So, let's bring it all home. The key takeaway, the one thing I want you to remember the next time you unpack your groceries, is this: food science and food technology are distinct but inseparable partners. Food science is the curious mind in the lab asking why. Food technology is the clever engineer on the factory floor asking how. They are the yin and yang of your dinner plate. From the extended shelf life of your favorite yogurt to the consistent crunch of your breakfast cereal, their collaboration is everywhere. It's what allows us to enjoy a diverse, safe, and affordable food supply that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. So go ahead, be curious, ask questions, and enjoy your food. Because now you know a little bit more about the incredible science and technology behind every single bite.